We are always building constituency, and because people are power. And outside of the church and religious context, the one thing I see, if people think they can benefit from your brand, they're gonna come alongside and help you. It's no doubt about it. They're gonna come alongside. I often uh, am reminded how in this religious context, um, this thing is about one beggar telling another beggar where he or she found the bread.
Today, we're excited to have Pastor Rudy Rasmus on the show. Pastor Rudy is the co-founder of Bread of Life, Inc. and former senior pastor of St. John's Downtown Church in Houston, Texas. Alongside Pastor Juanita Rasmus, he transformed a small downtown congregation into one of the nation's leading examples of faith-based development. For more than 3 decades, Pastor Rudy has helped build an ecosystem that combines faith, affordable housing, homelessness services, healthcare, food security, philanthropy, government partnerships, and community development. His leadership has resulted in multiple permanent supportive housing developments, including Rasmus Temenos and Nose Roland House, while demonstrating how churches can leverage their land, relationships, and mission to create lasting community transformation. Let's join the conversation.
We are so blessed to have our dear brother, friend, and our Uncle Rudy. How you doing, Rudy Rasmus?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. Great to be with y'all.
It's great to be with you, man. Thank you for the time this day, and we're grateful for all that you are and all that you do. You to us are the godfather of faith-based development, and we're just so honored and humbled to be able to share with you today and have you share with us. And can you just tell people who really don't know much about you, can you tell a little bit about who you are and what you've been about?
Yeah, I started in ministry in 1992 after a long journey in the wilderness. My wife and I started a church in downtown Houston. Fascinating experience. My then pastor and friend, Kirby John Caldwell, actually planted us in this building, and we started with about 9 people. The church grew to over 30,000 people. 30,000 people joined during that 30-year experience.
Wow.
People would come and go, like many churches, but
Yeah.
yeah, it was quite a journey. We started 2 nonprofits, actually 3 nonprofits during that 31-year journey, and just had a great time. We wrapped up in 23, and now I'm full time in the nonprofit, the Bread of Life
Wow.
at Temenos Community Development Corporation.
Well, yeah, thank you for that intro, and we'll dive into, some of those things you mentioned. But just, starting out, when you arrived at your church, you and your wife, what did you see in the community that convinced you to, take the ministry beyond the 4 walls? Talk to us a little bit about that.
There were two things that really resonated with me. One, I had been watching a TV preacher named Robert Schuller, Garden Grove, California.
Yeah.
He used to come on every Sunday morning with a big, thick robe on, and he was in the Crystal Cathedral, and surrounded by what appeared to be wealth and opulence. He would say one thing every week, and he would say, "Find a need and fill it." And it just registered with me, find a need and fill it. He said, if a church is gonna really act on its mission, that's what it should be doing. It should be looking for the needs to fill and really working on filling those needs. Second thing that happened, my pastor, who actually was planning me, gave me a book, and the book was entitled "Not No Hiding Place" by Cecil Williams. Cecil Williams has started a ministry in San Francisco probably 30 years earlier. And it just so happened he had put all of his experience in this one book. My pastor, my friend Kirby John, said, "Hey, Rudy, take this book, go downtown, and just do everything that Cecil did." And it was that simple. The book outlined really all of the missional activities that Pastor Williams had engaged in,
Wow.
and what we did was copying it. Like I heard a preacher friend of mine say one day, "There's nothing wrong with being a copycat as long as you copy the right cat." And that's what that's been my experience throughout this whole journey. I just copied the right cat.
Oh man, that's awesome. So what about okay, so what exactly, were you copying, out in
You know,
Houston?
I'll tell you. This was the early '90s. This is 1992. Crack cocaine had ravaged communities throughout the '80s. What Cecil did was created a safe place for people in recovery, just a really safe place. So he had a church full of former addicts and current addicts. We did the same. HIV/AIDS was really prevalent in the early '90s. It was still a pandemic, and it was really affecting Black communities at a disproportionate rate. We we launched, just like Cecil, we launched an outreach to people with AIDS, testing, counseling, ultimately housing people with AIDS. The other thing he did really effectively was address food security for homeless people via a soup kitchen. We opened a soup kitchen and started serving hot meals. And before we knew it, we were serving 500 a day,
Wow.
365 days a year for the next 20 years. 500 people will come in for a hot meal every day. And
And
then,
that just happened like quickly.
yeah, we
You're saying,
started that in the first month.
wow,
Yeah, in the first month of '92, and it was a
wow.
big, just tremendous need in those days for this outreach. And then the
Yeah.
other thing Cecil did was created a safe community for the LGBTQ community, and we did too. We became one of the very few Black churches that created a safe pew for people who had a different identity orientation. So, so between all of that, we just really dove in and we learned on the job. So this was not like, there was a guidebook or even someone to really talk us through it. We learned how to do this through experience. One thing I didn't, one thing Cecil Williams' book didn't really talk about what it should have talked about was the personal cost of working in this context with very, very challenged people who had very challenged lives. We weren't prepared for the emotional toll of literally carrying the situational burden of people who had fallen through the cracks. We just weren't prepared for how challenging that would really be. So ultimately, that experience cost us quite a bit. My wife in our seventh year had a nervous breakdown, and the only thing we can attribute that major depressive episode to was the onslaught of need that showed up on our doorstep every day,
Every day.
7 days a week, and the challenges of meeting those needs and being present for those folks.
So that personal cost is very deep. That personal challenge, obviously, very deep, impacting you like that. That kind of leads me into a question I was going to ask you. You've been at this for more than 30 years. You and Juanita been at this for more than 30 years. You
Uh-huh.
talked about the challenge, the personal challenge you weren't ready for, and the toll it took on you. Can you speak to as well some other deeper challenges that you have learned from as it pertains to dealing with people in poverty, in homelessness, in circumstances where folks are
Yeah,
suffering greatly?
absolutely. I often think about how race and class play in this space of ministry that we are engaged in. You too, Joe. Yeah, I mean, we
Yeah,
have been
yeah,
in this field for a long time.
long time.
This
Yeah,
is year 35 for me.
yeah.
And I think about this, and I'm thinking, you know, not only are the people that we are serving challenged economically, emotionally, in every category, but for us to meet those needs, we are, in essence, transcending. an area space that, for in many cases, was not designed for us as leaders.
Mm-hmm.
The black-led space, black-led nonprofits, to run a missional organization or nonprofit and to be a person of color is very different from the experience my white counterparts had, and primarily it's because of there are two things. One, we can't do any of this work without money, without resources, financial
Right.
resources,
Right. Right.
and the carrot that's always hanging in front of black leaders of nonprofits is, well, you really need to improve your competency,
Right.
and,
Right.
and we are talking about chickens and eggs and which one came first, right?
Right.
Well, what comes first, doing the work or developing competency? You ultimately have to do both. You have to develop competency while doing the work.
Yep.
How that impacts funding, though, is the most challenging aspect to this work that we do. And that is, there is never the same amount of funds available to black-led nonprofits as there are to others. You know, when we really drill down into that, what we find is I want to be relatively politically correct. That I don't want to blow your podcast up on the first. All right, but 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 this is what happens. Most family offices, philanthropies, most agencies that provide funding are really run by white females.
Interesting.
And I think about the millions that we have raised over the last 35 years. And I think, in many cases, those who have supported me the most have been, mostly white females who manage this particular demographic
Mm-hmm.
of funding sources. So how we manage cultural competency, in essence, how we navigate spaces that are in many cases foreign to us is also a factor in how successful the nonprofit ultimately is. So
Interesting.
I had I'm bicultural. I grew up with white folks. I also grew up in a black community. When I went to middle school. I was the only black kid in a school of 1,000 white students. I learned a lot,
Yeah. Yep.
and then my dad was a politician. I learned a lot, and what I learned was something. One of my good friends, Jack Blanton. Jack Blanton gave me my first $1 million in 1997, right, my fifth year. And Jack said, Rudy, we were at lunch one day, and we were sitting there, and I had a new project. This was my first project. There was a health clinic for homeless people, and we needed about $1.2 million. And I'm at lunch with Mr. Blanton. He was a wealthy oil man down here in Houston, and he was and a good friend of his was introducing me to him. And that good friend of his, we were at lunch, and at the end of that lunch meeting, Mr. Blanton looked at me and said, "Now, Rudy, what can I do for you?" And I'm thinking to myself, "You just asked me what you can do for me?" Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
so I pulled out a set of blueprints, and I rolled them out, a little small set. I rolled them out on the table. I said, "Mr. Blanton, I want to build a homeless clinic for homeless people, and I need $1.2 million." He said, "First of all, Rudy, no problem." I said, "Hold on,
Wow. Wow.
no problem." And then he started teaching me. We had a beautiful 30-year relationship until he passed. He said, Rudy, first of all, nobody makes it out here alone.
Yeah.
No, nobody makes it without somebody
Yeah.
helping.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
And then he told the story of how he used to catch rides to University of Texas. And one day he was at a party at a St. Luke Methodist Church, right? He looked across the room and he saw this pretty girl, and he said he and that pretty girl ultimately married, and he said he never had to catch another ride to UT again. I said, "Hmm." And then he went on to say, I've got some friends. I'm gonna make a call, and I think me and my friend, will be able to get this $1.2 million for you. And we walked away from that table. But here's the key: the linchpin. He said, always be prepared to ask, and never assume people don't want to help you. That's it.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Always be
yeah,
prepared to ask,
yeah,
and never assume people
Hmm.
don't want to help you.
yeah.
Right now, I'm $300 million later, asking and assuming people want to help.
Right.
All right,
Yeah.
asking and assuming. I'm asking, hey, and I'm assuming they want to help me. 300 million dollars,
Wow.
maybe more,
Wow. Wow. Wow.
maybe.
Wow. So Tiffany, that like leads us right. You know, we talk a lot about partnerships and collaboration, right? That
Yeah.
kind of that kind of speaks right at the heart of it.
So thank you for sharing all those stories and how you've been able to curate, the medical services and the clinic and asking, always being ready to ask. I love that. We need to always have it in the back of our pockets because we don't know who has the resources and who can help us,
Right.
in those times of need. So kind of you formed an ecosystem that, has built one on top of the other to serve your community. What are some of the most critical relationships and partnerships that you've managed to have that has helped you build trust with this shared vision of transformation? Just talk a little bit about some of those most critical partnerships in your journey.
Okay. You know what we don't really factor, and it should be a course on this, and the course should be on branding and how we create our personal brands and how we push those brands out to the community. In essence, how do you want to be perceived? Who do you want to be perceived as? And the unique thing about the technology these days is we can create any persona we want to create. But
Yeah.
what we can't do is negate the power of constituency, collaboration, community. We need all of those aspects.
Mm-hmm.
So what's worked for me? I mentioned earlier that my father was a politician, and what he taught me was really the power of the handshake. In essence, I call that finding common ground. How quickly how quickly can we find common ground with the person in front of us? And then when we think about that common ground, ultimately creating a relationship, a friendship, and ultimately a mutually beneficial relationship, then we know that there's more to community building than just identifying a project
Mm-hmm.
and building a project.
Yep.
So this is what's worked for me. Early on, I realized I was going to be a kind of an outlier in terms of religious leadership. I was going to be this quirky guy who operated on the peripheries of a more conventional system. So what I would do is I would push the envelope on this quirky identity of mine. And that quirky identity of mine actually became my brand. And out of that brand, people began to, in this local context and in some cases nationally, began to know who I was and what I stood for, and they began to see how they could be a part, how they could join this effort. But what I don't think many developers, community developers know is that they are more politician than they are anything else.
Yeah.
I'm running for office every day. People say, how many votes you got today? I said, it depends on how many people I met. So by the time I leave that person's space, they're voting for me, and that is at the core of who we are and what we do. We are always building constituency. And because people are power, and outside of the church and religious context, the one thing I see now is, and I know this now, I've known it actually from the very beginning, and that is, if people think they can benefit from your brand, they're gonna come alongside and help you. It's no doubt about it. They're gonna
Mm-hmm.
come alongside. It's a, I think I often am reminded how in this religious context, this thing is about one beggar telling another beggar where he or she found the bread.
Yep. Yep.
And when I
Yep.
think about, how I move around this city, and now 35 years later, I'm 70, right? So I've been on the ground here for 60 of those 70 years. I left about 10 years for college and et cetera. Came back. I've been here since 1980. And since 1980, I've had a chance to really kind of create an ecosystem, as you put it, an ecosystem that supports the work ongoing. Now, honestly, I'm tired. This is
Yeah.
a 35 year grind. All right. And I'm looking around for younger people saying, hey, you want to take on an adventure? And in many cases, they're saying, Pastor Rudy, hey man, you cool,
You're
everything.
right.
I like what you do.
Right.
But no, man.
Not
No,
not
I don't
me.
want to.
No
Not me.
way. I ain't it.
It's
Man,
hard.
how many people a day have you tried to meet on average? You said you're
Well,
out there being a politician. Is how many people a
yeah.
day?
Well, Joe, Joe's been has joined me in Rudy World. It's a whole thing.
It's a
It's a
whole
whole
thing.
experience.
It's
It's
a
a whole
whole
thing.
thing.
It's a whole
It's a whole
experience.
thing.
So I eat out every day, right? And I've eaten out every day for about 30 years. It's very expensive, but it's what I like to do. Some people buy cars. I buy fish. It's a thing. But in these places where I frequent, I am treated royally in those places, right? And my friends, whoever was with me, is treated royally in those places. So there may be 10 restaurants in town, and I walk in. But in the midst of this, all of the, so here's the deal. We are in the entertainment business. Never think that we are not entertainers. I mean, we are politicians, we're entertainers. All right. It's the damnest thing, but it's the truth. So here's the thing. What I've been able to do is make celebrity work for the people. Okay.
That's
So
good.
wherever I
That's
am,
good.
I'm encountering people. If you don't know me, you've heard of me. If you've heard of me, you know what I do. So matter of fact, I give you a case in point. I'm not going to use the actual term, the vernacular that the person used when he told me the story. But he said they were in the barbershop one day a while back, and my name came up, right? And my name came up, and the brothers were saying, "Man, yeah, man, that's Pastor Rudy. He all right. He a good dude." And then one guy chimed in. He said, "Man, at Pastor Rudy's church, your woman and your money are safe."
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so I had my street credibility
Yep.
was, I ain't got no scandal. All right. I'm focused on helping the poor. I do it effectively. But then there's another factor. Beyonce, you know, about 30 years ago, well, actually, I met, and this is an outlier. This is something that only God could have put in the past. But about in 1985, Tina, Beyonce's mama, was my wife's hairdresser. So we started a church, and Tina has got a little girl, and then she has another little girl. And then the little girls, they start singing. We started a church in 92, right? 85, 92, 7 years. 7 years later, but they knew me. The 85 me was in the streets. I did a different kind of business. But they knew me to be a solid guy. I'm not, I wasn't flaky. I'm just a serious street business guy. So we started church, and they bring the family. Now this is the doggone thing. I couldn't. If I could have drawn a picture of what could have happened. So they come to the church, and they start this little girl group, and every week they're in a talent show. Well, we stop church and pray for the babies. I tell people all the time, pray for the babies. You never know. One day, one of them might grow up to be Beyonce. That's what I just pray for the babies.
Yeah.
What one of them might grow up to be Maya Angelou. You just don't
You
know.
just don't
One of
know.
them might grow up to be James Baldwin. You just don't know. So we pray for the babies, right?
Yep.
Pray for the babies. The babies end up becoming Destiny's Child, right? Just a doggone thing. And then it takes off in a whole nother direction. So we get this. Not only do we have credibility on the ground for serving the poor, now we have attached celebrity to it, and that's what I learned from Cecil Williams. So if you think about Glad Memorial United Methodist Church at the time, the reason Cecil was able to do as much as he was able to do was because he had Sharon Stone, Danny Glover, Oprah Winfrey, Lou Gossett. He had all these celebrities that identified with the place. They literally connected their brand to the place, and then they were willing to connect their resources as well. Beyonce and Tina, Matthew, they did the same thing for me. So they helped me literally. They gave me the soft cost for my first development project. So the first time we built a building, and here's the deal: what keeps us out the game, y'all, is capital.
Yep.
All right, capital keeps us out the game because we just can't go down the street. I done borrowed more hard money, y'all, in the last almost cussed in the last year, almost
Almost.
almost. I done borrowed. I done borrowed. I done borrowed more hard money in the last year than I have in the last 30. Hard money. You know what hard money is?
Oh yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Expensive.
Yeah.
Yes.
Expensive money.
Yeah.
Short-term money.
Yeah.
A powder keg of money.
Yeah.
It's something to blow up on you. You can't make that payment. You lose your stuff.
Yep.
I borrowed more hard money in the last year than I have in the last 30. And why? Access to capital. Access to capital. When we think about access to capital, we think about the barrier to entry for every opportunity that we're facing. That's the challenge. So this family, they made a big hit. They made some money. They helped me on the capital stack. They helped me with the soft cost,
So
and then
you maximize the assets in your room.
we maximized. And then that same guy, Jack Blanton, that I mentioned to you, Mr.
Yeah.
Blanton, they gave me my first million. On my first housing development, he gave me the land for the first project. I mean,
No way.
yes. And so I got free land from Mr. Blanton. I got my initial contribution to the capital stack from Beyonce and them. And now here's the downside of this. The downside of celebrity money and being celebrity also is that people think you don't have any needs.
Right.
People think, Rudy ain't got no problems. He got Beyonce.
Yeah,
Well,
you got
It's
all
all
you
taken
good.
care of.
yeah. No, that ain't how it work. Beyonce got a family. She got Jay-Z and all them other people. We have, we have to stand on our own. But the one thing they did let me do, and they've given me access literally to that brand for the last 30 years. I can right now, I can say I can use their name in an interview and it will not blow up. It's because I've honored the opportunity to be their friend.
Awesome. Awesome. So just wrapping that up, you and your family, your church community, you've been able to essentially solve needs in various ways, right? Through
Yeah.
feeding those who are hungry, through housing those who are homeless, through providing medical services to those in need in the community. So these layers really show your holistic approach to faith-based development and your impact to the mission that you've been called to do. So that is a tremendous, it's inspiring, it's tremendous. And you've been able to, use the resources that you have to get more resources and asking. And so it's phenomenal work. And
doing it with a sense of humor.
doing it with a sense of humor. So
'Cause you can't take this shit too
really
seriously.
appreciate the impact.
Yeah.
You done said it now.
It's all good.
Can't take.
Ma-
You really
How
can't. You can't take it.
Yeah.
how do you, because you really have laid out your playbook in many respects. How do you see those areas that Tiffany just mentioned, the holistic nature of the faith-based development you've done around housing, around healthcare, around food, personal product distribution,
Hmm.
workforce development? Because at one point, you were employing people and training people
Hmm.
in healthcare careers. How do you can you walk us through how those work in tandem, or how you have
Hmm.
developed a playbook for those to work in tandem to bring about transformation of lives?
You know, it's actually simpler than that. My dad had a concept, a business concept, and he was a Depression era guy. You know, he matter of fact, he would be, I think, 100 on his this upcoming birthday, August 31st. Is gonna be would have been 100 years old. He had a he had a real theory um, about life and business. And he said sometimes you have to do what he said. I'll say it another way. He said sometimes you have to access the door that'll open for you. So his theory, in a very colloquial way, was fried chicken, barbecue, and cleaning up, right? Janitorial. So he would say, hey, you want to make some money. You do the stuff nobody else wants to do. Nobody wants to cook in hot grease. Nobody wants to cook in the smoky room, and nobody wants to clean up behind other people. And and true enough, he had friends who had made fortunes in each of those areas:
Wow.
fried chicken,
Wow.
barbecue, and janitorial. Matter of fact, the guy who changed my life, Joe Curvin, was a friend of Ross Perot in the '60s, and subsequently changed my life forever. I ended up growing up a middle class kid as a result. But what I took from that was, I go through the door that is accessible to me. But then when I get inside, then I'm in the room at that point. I'm doing everything. Let me get through the door. I might get through the door with fried chicken, right? But before they know it, I'm selling chickens,
Yep.
right? I'm shipping chickens all over the world. Before you know it, I might be frying chickens for starters, other people's chicken. Before you know it, we growing our own chicken,
Yeah, you
right?
owning the chicken.
I own the chicken. Matter of fact, that's a story. There's a story there. I'm very unlike Joe. I'm a very untalented athlete. Okay, I have no talent.
Man, you were the star point guard on your basketball team. What you talking about? Your team in high
Thanks to
school.
AI, you know, I got AI video.
And
I
you can
got
be
AI
anything you want to
video
be.
where I made a 9 point shot at the buzzer. I got it's on my phone. I'm gonna send it to you. It's
Oh,
a. Let me tell you this. Here's the deal. My I didn't have any real athletic gifts. My dad knew it. One day he took me to the store. We bought a ball, a bat, and a glove. We came back to the neighborhood. He stood in the front yard with me. He threw the ball to me. I tried to hit it. And before we knew it, the whole neighborhood, who normally would not pick me for their teams, were lined up on my fence watching my dad throw me the ball. I walked away from that moment with an understanding. He said, "Now, big shot. You own the ball, the bat, and the glove. If anybody playing, you playing."
Yep.
So the theory is, if you got the ball and the bat, you in the game regardless of what anybody else says, because they playing with your ball or they playing with your bat. So my goal has always been to get in a position where either the ball or the bat is mine. So when I get inside the room, we gonna make something happen, and that has been the experience over these 35 years. It's hard though. We get a lot of rejection, and if you can't handle rejection, this ain't the work for you.
Those are great practical steps you're laying out, that you've laid out. Are there any other practical steps you would lay out to a pastor or a church that wants to delve into community development going forward?
Yeah, I would really, for any pastor listening to this, I would say do an asset evaluation, and that is, Look at what you own right now. Look at what's in your hands, and know that what's in your hands, also touched by God, can multiply in ways that only God can do it. The reality is, I've been telling people for many, many years, church property was worth more to the systems than the congregations that would meet inside of them. Church property for many years have been worth more to the systems than the people who would meet inside. So know that your real estate is of value to people, even if they try to act like it's a little, don't believe it. Because churches were uniquely situated on the best corners in neighborhoods all over the country.
All over the country. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
Take your
That's good.
assets. Take what you got
Yeah.
and use what you got to make some change.
Well, Pastor Rudy, as we wrap up, what's next for you? What is, now that you're in this phase of life, you said 3 years ago you're in your retirement, rewirement phase.
Yeah.
What are you looking forward to in this moment?
Well, I'm building a coffee shop right now, and
Okay.
we, as a matter of fact, we sheetrocked yesterday. So you know,
Did you?
it's the
Did you do it in the
project.
place? Did you do it in the place where the brothers met when we came down there? Is that the spot?
No, I think I did it in another spot, but
Okay.
this project. It is really
Yeah. Talk to
it's
us
been
about
life
this
giving.
coffee shop. Okay.
Yeah. So I'm in the coffee business. I don't talk about it a lot, but my partners and I own two Starbucks in Bush Airport. We've been in that product for about 3 years, and those do very well. I have another brand, my own brand in Hobby Airport through Good, but the one in Hobby Airport is a bar bistro. So people basically get drunk before they get on the plane because they're scared.
Because they
You don't need
scared.
coffee. You need
Right.
some whiskey
Relax.
because they scared. You need whiskey, but
You're meeting a need. You're meeting a
meet a
need.
need, meet a need. But before about 10 years ago, I opened my first neighborhood coffee shop. I sold the land under it. It was irresistible. I kept the brand, and now I'm getting ready to return with a new neighborhood shop, and it's called Through Good. Through THROUGHGOOD. It's changing lives through good coffee. That's our hook.
I love it.
And I'm going on this one. I'm going to be the barista.
I love it.
Yeah,
I
I'm
love
going
it.
to be the
Oh,
barista.
that's
I'm going to be in
fun.
there making coffee every day. I'm
I
looking forward
love
to it.
that. That's an awesome way to
So the
spend
world
your,
wants to
your
find me. They're
time.
going to know where to find me. And I guarantee you, the world will find a
Cool.
way to Through Good.
I love it. I love it. I love it. We want to. We have a signature here on the podcast that we call the Faith Based Development 4. And so we want to ask you 4 questions. I'm going to ask you two of them. Tiffany's going to ask you two of them.
Okay.
First of all, real quick, and you've kind of outlined this already in what you talked about, but real quick, what does faith-based development look like in action for you?
Faith based, and it means identifying a need and reminding the people you help that it was God's idea. That's what it means to me. Identify the need and let the people know while you're helping them, this isn't my idea. This is God's idea.
That's good.
So
That's
when they
good.
receive that help, they know it's not coming from another person. It's coming from God.
That's right.
That's
That's
real
right.
good. That's real good.
Awesome.
That's real good.
Looking ahead, what is one opportunity or challenge the faith-based development ecosystem must address over the next 5 to 10 years?
Faith. So the faith community has operated in silos for way too long, and those silos were okay when there were more people interested in being parts of churches. What they better realize now is that the silos need to be collapsed. Use that metal to do something else with it, and create bigger containers. So silos, little thing, little, it's okay for that time. But now they need to take all of the product from all of those silos, build a bigger container, and come and work together.
Yeah.
They
That's
don't work
good.
together, it's done. It's game over
It's
already.
game over.
My
Yep.
my friends who are under 35 years old, they say, "Hey, Pastor Rudy, man, I love you, man. Like, man, I ain't coming to church, man. I'm not coming to church. Man, what for? What y'all doing?
Ooh,
You know? Yeah. What y'all doing? I
it
can do
looks
something else with
different
that time.
today. Yeah, it looks
Looks
different
very
today.
different. The pandemic shifted the
That's
universe.
right. That's right.
Yeah, the pandemic changed the game. We had benefited from generations of you know con- continuity, generations of church going continuity. They got disrupted, and in the
For
midst of
2 good years. Yep. Straight.
2 solid years, and I tell you what, you disrupt anything for 2 years, it's a new ball game, and it is a new ball game.
So who in the faith-based ecosystem, who in the faith-based development ecosystem do you think we need to hear from?
Who in the faith-based development ecosystem do we
Yep.
need to hear from?
Yep.
You know,
If you want to
really,
hear
it's
from
not
some
a,
folk, who do you think we need to hear from?
well, I'm gonna tell you this. It's not a person we need to hear from. We need to hear from each other.
Ah,
Okay? In essence, we need to get in some, almost did it again. We need to get in some circles. All right. Yeah, I'm doing really good with y'all. We
you
need to
doing
get in some
good, man.
circles.
You
I'm doing
doing
really good.
good. You doing good,
We need,
bro.
we need to get in some circles. We need to get in some circles and share.
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell y'all something. So I've been sober now for 5 months. I hadn't had a drink in five months. I stopped Ash Wednesday, right? And what I in this moment of clarity, I was a social drinker. It's like I heard a young brother say, "But Pastor Rudy, I was just extra social." You know what I mean? It's like,
right. Right.
you know, I'm a social drinker, but I'm extra social. I'm out all every day. I'm hanging out. Drinking wine. I like that stuff.
Hmm.
But I stopped, right? And I started applying some of the principles of recovery of AA, NA, right? And one of the primary principles of NA and AA is, in essence, we share our stories of strength, hope, and courage,
Hmm.
right? The Bible has another way of saying it. We overcome by the blood of the lamb and what's the other part,
The
Joe?
words of our testimony.
Yeah,
Amen.
that part
There you
right
go.
there.
There you
Yeah,
go.
yeah. So coming together, talking about it.
That's good. That's good.
Where's my testimony? We gotta share because here's the deal, y'all. Many people think that, "Oh, I can't do that. I mean, look at Rudy. He XYZ. Man, you just you just follow me around for a while. It ain't my journey ain't unique. I'm
Yep.
out here trying to make it and trying to feed my family and help some people at the same time. But ain't nothing dropping out the sky for
Hmm.
me. And it's not gonna drop out the sky for any of us. We got to come together and go dig it up together.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
good.
Last one. If you could challenge every faith leader in America to do one thing for their community, what would it be? Besides checking them assets.
Love thy neighbor. Did you hear that?
Oh, yeah.
Love thy neighbor. I mean, that's the part that makes me cry. We got this whole 2,000-year lineage rooted, grounded on the foundation of love. But we find every other reason to not. How a person walks, what a person's complexion is, what they identify as another orientation, how much money they have or don't have, what neighborhood they live in, what school they went to or didn't go to. I mean, we have all of these categories, and all those categories do is keep us from doing I had a good friend, Phil Phillips was his name, and he owned the Somerville Ice House. Y'all know nothing about ice houses up in the Midwest, in the East, but ice houses down here are beer joints, right? Places where they
Ah,
sell cold beer.
okay.
Okay.
Phil Phillips sold more cold beer than anybody I know, right? For one reason, the dude was amazing. For one reason, he said, Rudy, he had a big old cowboy hat, big old country white boy. Rudy, you got to keep the main thing the main thing. Shit. That's it right there. The main thing. That's it. So that's the answer to my question.
Man, thank you. Thank you so much, man, for taking the time to share with us, bro. This has
Good
been
being with
rich.
y'all.
This has been
This was
rich.
fun.
I ain't cussed but twice. I mean, I'm telling you, I did really good with y'all. Normally these podcasts, I light them up. All right.
Okay. Well, we appreciate you
I
bringing
know
it
y'all got some.
together today.
Yeah, y'all bring it to the Christians. Yes, they.
Listen, the masses, okay?
Bring it
Like,
to the
we want to hear
masses,
from
brother.
everybody.
Bring it to the masses. We need to have a conversation. You hit it
You
right
do
on
need
the
to,
head.
yeah, bring it to the masses
You need
for
Yeah,
right.
sure.
You hit it right on the head.
They
We need
need
to
to
have a
know.
conversation.
And I love the like listening to each other, and that's what we hope that this podcast will do. Like, you know, in essence, right? Like, we will obviously share stories and learn
Yeah.
from each other, but you know, like, it's nothing like that community and just sharing stories and being
Share stories.
transformed by each other's
Yes.
testimony, like that. Absolutely. So, Pastor Rudy, where can people find you if they wanted to continue to follow you, the work that you're doing? Where can we find
Yeah.
you?
On the web at Bread of Life Inc. Inc.org. Bread of Life Inc.org. And on Instagram, Bread of Life HOUTX. Bread of
Okay.
Life Inc. HOUTX. Easy to find. And some of our, our work, our body of work is all there. And then you can
Awesome.
follow me at Rudy Rasmus, RudyRasmus on Instagram. I'm there, and I kind of post what we're up to from one day to
Yeah.
the next.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Thank you,
This has
Thank
been
brother.
y'all.
awesome. We
Proud of
really
y'all.
appreciate it.
Thank you,
Honored to be
man.
with you
Thank
today.
you, man. Thank you, man.
Good to see you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right.
We'll holler.
Okay. Thank y'all.
Thanks for joining us today. We hope this conversation encouraged you and inspired new possibilities for your community. Until next time, let's continue putting our faith into action, one community at a time.